If you are a writer like me, there is nothing more infuriating than feeling like you had a really good idea for where your novel or your story was going, and then all of a sudden you're just incapable of writing anything new. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jillian Leota and I am a contemporary and new adult romance author with 10 currently published titles, and today I'm excited to talk to you about some tips and tricks for avoiding or escaping writer's block. There are a lot of tricks out there, a lot of tips, a lot of advice, and I think a lot of them are really wonderful. And I'll go over a couple of just generic ideas that I think can help you yank yourself out of the kind of stifling, overbearing, stuckness place that writer's block can take you. But there is one very special technique that I use that I am very excited to share with you. And I call this the rolling pin method. And I say, I use the term method as if it's like some really scientific, really important, well researched thing. And it's not. It's just an idea that I had for the best way to describe this kind of method that I use, because it's kind of like using a rolling pin. So when you think about baking, and you're making dough and you're getting out a rolling pin, some of the point of doing that is you work over the dough to even it out, redistribute it. A lot of times you'll see people rolling dough and then they fold it over and they roll it again. And there's a lot of different techniques to using a rolling pin the most effectively. The way that I'm explaining this, the way I feel like you should be using this rolling pin method when it comes to your writing specifically has to do with something that a lot of people say you absolutely should not do when you're writing, and that is to go back and edit. Now, I can understand the arguments against editing while you're writing. It can completely slow down your timeline. It can force you to focus on smaller moments in your story that don't allow you to progress your big picture. A lot of the finesse of language and making sure that your dialogue is effective, if you're going back to work on those pieces when you don't have a complete picture of your storyline yet, it can be a waste of time. However, it can also be the thing that saves you from endless writer's block. And here's why I think that's true. If you are a pantser like I am, sometimes you have a really good picture of who your characters are when you begin, and sometimes you don't. Sometimes you might have just the wisp of a storyline, you might have just a specific image or scene in mind, and you might just sit down and start writing. And if that's the case, and you get 6 chapters, 8 chapters in, and all of a sudden you're like, where am I going with this? What's missing? Why do I feel like this doesn't have any direction? Going back to the beginning and doing some editing can actually really save you in the long run. Think about it this way. Let's pretend that your character is a real person. And as a fellow novelist slash author, whatever it is you want to call me, a lot of us believe that our characters really are real people. And that's totally okay. If you have a real person and you're telling a story about them, and then they do something completely out of character, does that seem strange? Like, it should feel strange that your character is doing something they wouldn't normally do. So if you go back to the beginning and read through what it is you've written so far, you can do some light editing here and there, but then you might hit a point in your story where you think, I don't know that necessarily feels accurate. That doesn't feel like what this character would say or what this character would do. And that's when the rolling pin method comes into play. And that's when you start kind of spreading out and massaging and working through the dough of your manuscript to figure out where it was that you went wrong. As a person who personally, I have to write in order. I cannot write storylines out of order. It's a mess for my mind. And so if I am writing a storyline in order and I realize something is wrong, I can't just jump to a new section of the story and start writing there. I have to fix what's wrong with it before I can continue. And I think that's what a lot of people face when they're struggling with writer's block, is they're trying to figure out the next logical place for their story to go. And if you have done something incorrectly, or you have given your character an attitude or a plot point that doesn't gel with the story, then the ability to shove that character forward and have them continue with their storyline, it's just not going to be as effective as if you go back and identify what that issue is and correct it from the start. My next suggestion for beating writer's block is also something that a lot of people recommend that you don't do, and that is writing something else. Now, I don't mean start a new book. That is definitely not what I mean, because all that does is it teaches your mind to be unable to stick with something that you want to complete. What I'm talking about is writing a poem, writing down whatever it is that's popped into your mind that might be forcing you to get distracted from the work that you're currently doing. Think about it this way. If you are working on a current project and you keep having this idea for a thriller that you also want to write, take some notes. Take a break from your current project, sit down, spend an hour making notes on what that thriller project is, and then set it aside and know that that is ready to go once you are done with your current project. I am also a person who really struggles with progressing my storyline at my desk. And I know that might sound incredibly strange, but I have found the most impactful moments in my writing career when I have really struggled with figuring out where to go next. I go on a walk, or I go swimming, or I take a break from my computer and I talk about my storyline out loud. Now, it does make me look a little bit fantastic when I'm out in public and just talking out loud into my phone, recording notes for myself, but it actually is incredibly helpful, because when I'm sitting at my computer, if I'm struggling to progress my storyline, it's normally because my mind cannot stay focused on what it is I'm working on. Taking away the computer, taking away the distractions, getting outside for a minute, and speaking about my storyline out loud forces my mind to focus on the storyline without getting distracted by my computer, without feeling like I have to put words perfectly written onto a page. Instead, I can dictate out loud to my voice recorder my thoughts or ideas, and let me tell you what my recordings sound like. They sound like this. And then she can go to the party and meet a guy. And the guy is really cute and he's really wonderful. But they end up leaving and nobody asks for anybody's number. I mean, like, that's literally what it sounds like. It's horrible. It is not writing. But it allows me to figure out how to progress my storyline when I'm really struggling with it. Another wonderful technique that I use to get out of writer's block that other people say not to do is I read someone else's writing. And the reason I do that is because sometimes I get so stuck in my own voice that I need to take a breath from it and read something refreshing. Now, I I do believe that my own words are refreshing once I'm done and they've been edited, so that I actually sound like a writer. But a lot of times I just need a reminder of what good writing sounds like. So I will pick up books by authors that I admire, usually books I've read before, and I will flip to scenes that I value to remind myself what it looks like when a scene is written well. And sometimes that will be just the little bit of a jolt that I need in order to feel capable to head back to my desk and give it another go. The last suggestion that I have is it kind of relates to the whole idea of the rolling pin method that I shared earlier, but it's just slightly different. And that is, if you feel like you need to be writing to a formula and it doesn't work with your characters, don't do it. Don't do it. The best way to write yourself into a box is to write your characters inside of a box. You have to be true to yourself and your voice, 100%. Every author, regardless of what genre they're writing in, whether they write to beats, whether they're plotters, whether they're pantsers, everyone will tell you you have to stay true to your own voice and that you're the only one who can write with your voice. So if you are trying to force your characters to do something that doesn't feel natural for you as a writer, don't make them do that thing. I think there's a book called Romancing the Beat or something like that, and it lays out hitting the good beats for a storyline for romance. If you are writing romance and you are writing to specific tropes or to beats that you think you're supposed to hit, sometimes that can take away from your creativity. If for some reason you are struggling to follow that formula, take a break from it. Do something different. All right, everyone. Those are some of my suggestions on how to fight writer's block. If you feel like any of these were helpful for you, I would love for you to drop a comment below to let me know. Let me know specifically what it was that you did, or if you feel like there's something that has been helpful for you that I didn't mention, drop that below as well. If you found this video valuable, please hit the like button, and I would love it if you would subscribe. I'm a newer channel, so I don't have many subscribers yet, and I would love to see those numbers grow. This has been a really fun thing for me to do, and I hope that you find it valuable as well. All right, everyone, have a fantastic week, and I will see you next time. Bye. Sorry, itchy nose.